Welcome to the 4th anniversary broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst radio network. All past shows are available in podcast form. You can download them at ArtistFirst.com. We welcome your emails, questions, and comments to DJ@ArtistFirst.com. Here they are, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Your ancient hosts of days. Thank you, Scott. We just remembered this 10 seconds ago that this is our 4th anniversary broadcast, but it is. And so you loyal listeners have been here for 4 long years.
Is it really?
I'm going to say yes.
All right.
Based on our current faulty recollections, this is the 4th anniversary broadcast.
That's correct. Faulty.
But I think we're correct. And well, I tell you what, listeners, all you hundreds of thousands of people out there, if you can come up and tell us we're wrong before the end of the broadcast, we will send you a something. It'll be good though. Anyway, I'm Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret.
She's Margaret. And this is The Soul of Everyman. And tonight, our 4th anniversary broadcast, we have survived this long, we're going to talk about something kind of special, which is, one of our favorite topics, of course, is love. And I think love is something which literally does make the world go round. And in this particular case, what we're really talking, though, about is, I would say, the path of love. And by that I mean that if you look at our incarnate existence here in this world, in this plane, I think one of the main drivers of why we're here and what we would like to get out of this particular incarnation is to fulfill or to continue to fulfill this path of development, which we call sort of the path of love. And so we're going to have soon, if not up there already, a very cool quote from a woman who's famous, world famous, Helen Keller. And her quote reads like this: "What we once enjoyed and deeply loved, we can never lose. For all that we love deeply becomes a part of us."
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. That really is right to the heart of the matter.
Literally.
Mm-hmm.
I see what you did there. You've gotten very good at this stuff. Because it is all about the heart, isn't it?
Yeah. It's understanding, first of all, the voice of the heart. Because most of us respond to it without really thinking about it, especially when you're young. And then we're told that we have to watch what we say or do, and how it begins to impact other people. But I always found that interesting, because if the heart is speaking, it's usually the truth about whatever's unfolding in front of you. And if you have to watch or not say what the heart is saying, it means that there's some kind of dissonance going on. And as a small child, you have no idea. You just look at that like, why? Why can't I say that?
Right. The no filter blues.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly it. That's when you learn how to, or you're being taught that you have to filter.
And those of us who actually succeed in life realize that we lose our filter early, and keep it off for the rest of our lives.
It's the truth.
You smell funny. Oh, sorry. Moving on.
And it's rather, you certainly get yourself into very interesting situations when you wind up speaking the truth. But I think what happens is you learn how to speak your truth in an acceptable way. In other words, you're not directly speaking to the person's ego. You're speaking to their heart.
Right.
And when their heart is in conversation with you, it adds a whole dimension to the conversation. So, a friend of mine used to turn to me and say, "You know, Margaret, you're the only person I know that can actually say these things to somebody, and they don't take offense to it."
It is in the way you say something. But I think we're straying a little bit. Although on our 4th anniversary show, we can do whatever we want because it's our birthday. But but I think our topic is more. It's more along the lines of we come here. We come here with a purpose, and it's a mystery. Our purpose is sort of a mystery to us. We have to, because we're within the veil of the incarnate. The spirit has been veiled, the senses have been dulled, we've been put into this mortal plane, and so our purpose, which was bright and clear and burning before us in the spirit, is almost intentionally veiled here because we have to learn the way of uncovering that through the incarnate, because those are the lessons that we're here to learn.
It's a journey of discovery.
It's a journey of discovery. But yet we come here with this purpose. And one of the main ones I believe in, we talk about it a little bit in the posting we're going to put up on the website, is that we're trying to find our path of love, if you will, our path, into the heart. And of necessity, it starts in the physical.
Mm-hmm. The exploration of it. And the communication of it gets distilled, which I think is interesting. Because the way we communicate love varies from person to person. Certain people need to receive love a certain way. What is it? The 5 languages of love?
Yeah. Well, that's a very popular, but it's, I think, a very insightful way to quantify people's. And I love the way he, right? He uses the word language, because it is a dialogue. Love is a dialogue. Love is not a one-way street. Love is not a diatribe.
Some
Love,
people think so.
There's a book. Love is not a diatribe. Anyway, moving on. But yes, the 5 languages of love.
Right. So some people receive love by actions or gifts or words of encouragement or just being present. That's 4, and there was a 5th one. I can't remember what it is.
Cupcakes, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure it's cupcakes. But
what happens is you have a way of receiving love, and then you have a way of giving love, which I don't think people understand. They think that if they do it one way, they must do it the other. Right.
Very true. If someone expresses their love through actions, it doesn't mean that they receive love
through actions.
Through actions, they may receive love through affirmations, but in the physical, which is where we begin, you have both these kind of ways of expressing love, of receiving love, of acting, being, but in action and in reaction, beginning to explore these languages of love. But this is the beginning. This is sort of the beginning of that journey. And perforce, it's physical, and it's in the temporal. It's oftentimes love will wax and wane, love will grow, love will change over time. And this is the first beginnings of the appreciation of love. Here, starting from sort of the physical and into the temporal, you have an experiential love. You have a love which comes and goes, waxes and wanes, perhaps has seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, this is all part of that discovery journey. You through this sort of repetitive process, through incarnations, through the repetitive process, there begins to distill from these actions and from these experiences a central theme, or a central, let's call it the actual spirit of love, which which grows into something which is not affected by the physical. A good example: the people you love age, the people you love die, the people you love change. But although in the physical you can certainly say, well, now this is that, they're different. You begin to discern that they aren't different at a certain aspect, and that's the eternal aspect which you begin to perceive. This is obviously from the beginning. There are many old souls that come in with this knowledge already within them, but in the beginning, you come to this realization
and take steps towards that particular expansion, because it's an expansion of consciousness.
And I think it attracts naturally. It attracts your attention. It reveals itself and becomes what it becomes the perception of the essential portion of love. You begin to see it. You begin to unveil, the temporal veils, the physical veils, and realize that this was the thing that really was the heart of it. This was really the thing which is at the core of it. It's the enduring part of love, the actual thing which is covered up by the physical, or becomes part of the temporal, becomes part of the experiential. But you start to realize that it isn't these experiences, nor is it the physical aspects. And I think that's the attractive part of it, is that you begin to resonate at a different level.
Well, in any love relationship, you have that exchange of energy, of love, and it is expressed in different ways. As we said, the 5 love languages are expressions that love is and does, so that the two may communicate, exchange experiences, ideas, emotions, and to begin to explore that entire range of what the human experience is, with love as its foundation. Because with love as its foundation, you both understand that you are valuable, especially to each other. And you do not denigrate it. You do not make it second in your thinking and your decisions. That understanding is core for the relationship of the two. So whatever happens to one happens to the other. It's like again, we go back to the yin and the yang. When you see that picture, the black and the white, the eye of the white one is black, and the eye of the black one is white. And it symbolizes that they always hold each other as first in their minds. I always see that the Tao symbol moving.
Yes.
Because a relationship always moves. And with love and grace, it evolves in a spiral pattern going up, as opposed to it sort of just being stagnant.
Yes, and I think, to use that same analogy, the physical and the temporal is encompassed in the Tao, in the movement and in the representations, the yin, the yang, the white, the black. But then I believe the spiral that you're talking about, the trail, the pathway, the mark of the Tao as it moves through you creates an eddy, it creates a current, it creates a change in the essential person, and it distills itself and attracts a certain, it reveals itself in a certain sort of imperceptible constancy. And that, I believe, is the next level, if you will. You get past the physical, which is the beginning, the interaction, the flow, the movement, and the temporal, and you begin to see that the Tao itself represents an infinity. It is eternal. It revolves like the infinity symbol does. It is constantly moving. It is constantly flowing. It is not a static symbol. People see it as just a thing. No, it's moving, and that's when you begin to tap into the eternal portion of love. And I believe at that level is when it begins to take root within your heart, within, let's say, the fourth chakra, and change it. And that's where you began this conversation when we started earlier, before the show, is that's the portion of love which suddenly reveals itself almost in the illumination, kind of lightning bolt of illumination, and does what you were saying before.
Well, your focus becomes the other, but it's understanding that the other and you are one together. And it is that evolution that begins that journey of understanding the height and the breadth and the depth that love is. And it's always in the moment. It's not projected forward in the future or looking back in the past. Love is a now thing. It is present. And to be there in the present moment gives the foundation of love something to springboard off of.
Well, and the present now is also the eternal now.
Yes. The present goes past all boundaries of time, even though people say, well, present it means now, and you have the past and you have the future. It's like, well, that's our human projection on existence itself. And it is a limited form. That's when you look at the Tao, and it is only a two-dimensional, non-moving pattern. But you are more than that. And the idea is to take a step into an expanded dimension. And for us down here, that would be time, understanding now, and the shadow forward and the shadow in the past. Those are shadows of the present.
Yeah, and exactly, as well as, I believe, in finding this distillation of the relationship, when you go past the physical, you go past the temporal, you start to perceive the eternal, the now moment, and then you realize that the physical and the temporal, which will change and will change you, can never alter the eternal, the now. And I believe that's what you were telling me, that that's when you actually take the relationship, excuse me, and you put it within yourself, within your heart, and then in essence you've put that person, that which you love, and this is also Keller's quote, once enjoyed and deeply loved, you can now never lose either physically, temporally, or and this now touches into the eternal, because this person and you, in the temporal and the physical, are not eternal. None of us are. you will lose all that you love if you stay in the physical. You will lose all that you love if you stay in the temporal. But once you understand the eternal now, those shadows no longer have power over your relationship. Yes, the relationship began in the temporal, began in the physical, but it has surpassed them.
In the eternal moment, you are shining like the source of light. That's why the past is a shadow as well as the future is a shadow. You are at source point in the present moment and bright. So when you live in that brightness where life is, then it all, the term we were using is, it's something, an experience that you have shared together that gets put into the eternity bank. It is patterning that will resonate eternally, and a wondrous gift for yourself as well as for all of, how do I say this? It is life force itself that is being expressed, and the sharing of life force is a gift to all that lives.
Yes. And we've spoken of this before, but just in briefly, that eternity bank is what you bring back. It's the only thing that you bring back. You come here, let's say, well, as I mentioned before, with a purpose, which is veiled. But almost always, or often anyway, that purpose involves relationship with others who are also in the temporal and the physical. And in interacting, in distilling the relationship down to the eternal now, and then, in essence, I hesitate to say capturing, but in essence resonating with that, it changes your own frequency. It becomes part of you. We say it here that it becomes part of your heart. And now that person, because that resonance, that energy, that pattern represents a unique individual spark. That person, that moment of spark of now, that relationship, becomes an entity which lives within you. And it's not parasitic. It's far from it. It is a living representation which cannot be destroyed, which will go into your eternity bank, into that which is no longer ephemeral. And yes, a person may leave, the person may die, the person may change, their mind may go, whatever. It doesn't. It no longer. Those shadows no longer have the power to change that which has already been made into the eternal now.
You've already logged your patterns into the eternal. And to write into the eternal is to be able to write all of that in your heart. Who you are.
And who they were and are. And it's not static. It's not nor is it a picture, nor is it even, you go past that which is the aspect of this personage in the now, in the temporal, in the physical. You go past that. You tap into the reality, the real spirit that you are communicating with. And then there's an exchange. Both sides are irrevocably changed by this exchange. And if we could hear our song, if we could hear our frequency, you would hear that it had been modified, that in essence a new chord, a new aria, whatever you would like to say, has been added to your song. And that is the eternal portion of the other, which you put into your heart. And the heart is in essence that vehicle. It's not not just a lump of flesh in your chest which squeezes out blood. We're talking about the heart chakra. We're talking about the vehicle by which we connect up with the eternal. That portion of us which speaks true, which resonates, which gives you the words which people don't want to hear all the time. You're ugly. No, but I mean that portion which speaks the truth also gathers the truth and resonates and becomes changed.
Well, the heart can only resonate with what is true.
Yes.
Your head will lie to you. We've always said that. As long as you get to... All your head wants you to do is listen to it. But your heart will tell you the truth whether you like it or not. It has nothing to do with whether you like it or not.
Or in essence, whether you listen or not.
You're going to hear it, but you're going to decide whether you like it or not. And if you don't like it, you're going to reject it. That theory is always there. You can't avoid that. You can't just say, oh, well, that's the way I am. It's like, no, you've chosen. But you can also change. And that is very tricky, to be able to change a hard-written pattern that's been entrenched in your head.
Yeah, that's certainly that's a very good way of putting it. Is that the heart is a vehicle for change, both in the truth that it can present, and we've talked about this before. When Campbell says follow your bliss, what he really means is follow the voice of your heart. When we've all had the experience of saying this is right, this is true, this is the one. When you meet someone at the first time and you say, I feel an affinity, I feel a relationship, I feel that there's a resonance here. When that small voice says yes, or the small voice says run, or the small voice says no, that's the heart. When we talk about seeing with the eyes of the heart, we're talking about wisdom, but it's more than just wisdom. It's really perception.
You get hints of what pathway is being presented to you, where your feet, where should you put your foot next? If I put it here and the heart says, do you listen or don't you? Do you shift over and try this other path? And it looks very scary, but the heart says yes.
And I think there's something there that we should pick up on the other side of the break, but I think there's something there because as your heart, as you gather resonances and gather relationships with others through the heart, you gather their voices too. You gather their essence, their soul, their spirit into your heart. And you can even talk to these essences, these spirits, these people, whether they're physically present or even gone on into the next life again, and hear their truth, their true words, not just I'm imagining that they're going to say this and then they say that. No, you're hearing their truth. You're hearing their actual voice. And this is something perhaps we'll talk about a little bit on the other side. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
So for our 4th anniversary broadcast, we'll leave you at a cliffhanger, but on the other side of the break, we will talk more about the voices that you gather into your heart.
The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lyons, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, the Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. The wait is over. First Blood, Book 2 of the Blood series is out. Your favorite bad boy thief, Dev, is back, and the beautiful and deadly Trey is right there with him. She is sharp, sexy, and full of surprises. Their adventures continue as a new power arises to threaten the world. The heart of creation is under attack, and time is definitely not on their side as they battle against their enemies' undead hordes. Can they unlock the hidden power that can defeat him, or will his forces draw first blood? Get all 3 installments in the series. Book 0, It's in the Blood. Book 1, Destroyer's Blood, and the new release, Book 2, First Blood, today. Available in ebook and paperback format on Amazon, Kobo, Apple, and most other fine e-tailers.
Rick Riordan fans, love mythology with plenty of action and humor? Destroyer's Blood is for you. The new fantasy novel by award-winning author Michael Lynes is Book 1 of the Adventures of Devkalion, the Blood series. Follow Dev and his magic sword Betrayer as they are suddenly attacked and forced to return to Olympus to fight in a war they want no part in. The world of men and gods is about to be destroyed by Zeus's ancient foe, and only Dev and Trey can stop him. The conflict never stops, and the amazing twist will have you on the edge of your seat. Act now while the ebook is on sale for only 99 cents. Destroyer's Blood is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. And while you're there, get the free prequel, It's in the Blood, available for a limited time.
Hi, this is Hannah Ruth from the band Wild Hum. Check out our new Americana Soul CD, Wild Hum, at our website, wildhummusic.com. And you are listening to the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Thank you.
There is a Reaper is the story of 5-year-old Christopher Aaron and his life-changing struggle with leukemia. Winner of both the Indie Brag Medallion as well as the reader's favorite silver medal for memoir, There is a Reaper has more than 100 Amazon book reviews and a 5-star rating. It has been described as life-changing, spiritual, a must-read. Just released on Audible and iTunes, this memoir is also available in paperback and on Amazon Kindle for only 99 cents. Get your copy of this life-changing memoir today.
Thanks for joining us on the 4th anniversary edition of The Soul of the Everyman. Back to your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lynes.
Thank you very much, Z-Man. And Z-Man has been there for us since the beginning.
Yes, he has.
This is his 4th anniversary, too. But in fact, he's the little voice that tells us what to do in the... We put him into our heart. No, but going back to what we said in the last half hour, we're talking tonight about about the heart and about, in essence, how your heart has changed through relationship, through the resonances, resonances of love and relationship, and in fact these things, because when you enter into a relationship with another unique individual, that individual and you, as you mentioned, Margaret, we exchange energy. That energy is not just some sort of formless, static. It is their voice. It is their aspect. It is what made them precious to us. And that becomes part of us. It becomes a bond. It becomes a link. And it becomes not just some sort of memory. It is a memory, of course, but it's not just a memory. It is a living thing. You can then talk to that aspect of that person and receive their voice clearly through the heart and know without a shadow of a doubt what you're conversing with is not just your wishful thinking. It is the true voice of this person. And it can evoke sadness, it can evoke feelings of loss and pain, but you have to kind of understand that that's part of the memory aspect. The actual voice has none of those things.
Oh, that's true. That is true. In fact, it brings me back to, we have written a book about our son, and, excuse me, he had asked about love, and we're talking about, I think he was almost 6 at the time, 6 years old, and he was asking about love. And he was because of what he had to deal with, which was a cancer, he understood that there are things out there that he has so many questions about. So how do you explain to a child what love is? That was the question that rose in my mind. And the image came up very simply. You take a person and you put them in your heart. That's what love is. You've allowed this person to live inside you. And the question was, how do you think Mommy knows what it is you're going to like what you'd like to eat? And he looked at me because he never thought of that question. It's like, yeah, how do you know what I like to eat? I explained to him that it's very simple. I just asked Christopher inside my heart, do you think he'd like this? And he always tells me the truth. So that was how we began the foundation of understanding what love is, especially for a child, because they need to have a tangible
symbol, representation.
Mm-hmm. Experiential.
Yeah.
Especially Chris, it had to be the experience. And that he began to observe how that worked. Even to the point of when there were times when Mommy couldn't be there, and Grandma or Lola was there, but he would ask himself, what would my mom do? And then he would guide them when they had a question of what should be done now. And it's all hospital procedures and whatnot. But that's how that interchange of energy and love itself begins to grow. Because you understand that the love is there, and it's always there and undeniable. It is something that can never be lost. So in every situation, as your situation changes, you begin to adapt as a unit, the two of you together, and tackle whatever the problem may be. And when eventually his time came and he had to leave this world, that's when I had to take steps in understanding what an eternal love is. Because his physicality is no longer there. And for me, that was very difficult. Because as a person, I like physical touch. See, that was one of the languages of love. Physical touch. I always loved caressing my children. And it was a deep, deep affront to me not to be able to touch my little one. So I had to walk in a whole different realm to be able to embrace that love again. And it wasn't easy.
No, and it's not. Not everyone will deal with that sort of loss.
Thank God.
Thank God. But we all of us deal with loss, especially loss of, and the losses that matter are the losses of loved ones, of losses of relationship. The immediacy of a loss makes the grieving process, makes the pain much greater, especially a loss of someone very dear. But it is the process of understanding that and this is what we both had to go through, and what Chris had to go to, that you've internalized, you brought this eternal portion of that person into your heart. Excuse me. That doesn't change. You don't lose that. You never lose that. But the hard part for the body and the mind and the physical person that you are here is to go through the grieving, because that portion has to be done. You cannot deny that. You can't say, oh, well, I've got this and I don't have to worry about that. No, you're going to go through that. You're going to come on the other side of that, and you have to look and see that the portions that were not lost are, I hesitate to say more important. They're as important and as precious as the memories and the grief and the loss of the physical. And as you said, you can't minimize it. There is a body grieving and a soul, incarnate soul grieving, which does not, it is not assuaged by this. It cannot be, because it doesn't reach there. But the heart has the ability to touch into the eternal, and you will find that complete person there. The relationship that you had is there. You may be blinded by the grief in accessing it, certainly for a portion of time, or may feel less than for a portion of time. But it isn't less than, it is different. That's probably the best way to put it.
I'd like to liken it to what we were talking about before. Understanding that the seed contains something that can grow to a whole new level. And if you sort of look at being a parent as being a seed, and you allow yourself to go through what you've got to go through, I liken it to the breaking apart of the outer shell of the seed. And the life that is within can take root. So your job as a parent is to be able to allow the life that is within to grow, because unless you break apart the outer form, that which is within the seed will never root and reach up and grow on its own.
Right.
And that outer shell is dissolved into the soil and taken in by the roots of the new life. There are many ways in which that parental form nourishes. It protects and it nourishes. But I go back to the original that we talked of a couple shows ago. Your heart has to break for that life to be released and allow it to grow to fullness.
And similarly, that the change that your heart goes through in accepting a relationship with any person is a sort of breaking as well. That which you were is no more.
Mm-hmm.
The new thing which is part of you now does not come without price. Relationships, no relationship comes without a price. You pay a price to have a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that in most relationships the price is well rewarded, but yet it is a price. There is a change, there is a marking, there is an opening for grief, because as relationships change, and they will, no matter what, here, there is loss, there is gain, and there is grief. And yet, the eternal portion of it, which is beyond the changes and beyond the temporal and physical and the experiences and the loss and the grief, is the essence. It's the heart of it. It's what has happened to you, what's been written upon your heart, what has been put within your heart, what you've made space for.
Mm-hmm.
You make space for that person in your heart. That takes something from you. You give and you receive.
Well, going back to the analogy of the seed, if you see your ego as the shell of the seed,
there you go.
You have to break that to go past yourself. You can't always be concerned about you. Love needs to be shared wholly and fully. So the ego has to break for you to be able to begin to experience all the other aspects of who you are. Doesn't mean the ego is destroyed, okay? Think of it as an expansion.
But there's some pain involved. I think it's very interesting that you came here, because in the last portion of what we were talking about here, what we had written rather, this path that we're on, this path which you've just very eloquently described, is a path of change, of breaking, of expansion, and it is the route of this, of taking people into your heart, is not without pain, nor is it without change. It has both of those aspects as part of its price. But you're moving on that path, we wrote it here, of unconditional love. You're moving towards something which is, I would say, unattainable here. Perhaps there have been some enlightened souls who have gotten as close as you can get on the physical plane. But you're on your way towards that which is the unconditional love of the Creator, that which is beyond all physical. And again, it's through the path of the heart, in taking in the relationship with others into your heart. You make space in there for multitudes. You realize that you yourself are vast, that multitudes of you exist in others, that in all relationships you expand yourself. There is breaking, there is healing, there is growth, there is a infiniteness that you're expanding into, a realization of your own vastness. And the further you go on the path, the vaster you realize yourself to be, and you're on the way, in essence, on the way to becoming one with Source, with Creator, which has all those aspects already within itself.
And that which is.
That which is. Again, we talked about the eternal moment of now. That is, the old I am who am. Well, you're amming, you're being, you're an eternal being. It's not a concept that we can express well in language, but that's pretty close. That's as good as any.
Well, in language, in English, that's about as best we can come to it, because it's an experiential thing.
Right.
It's, again, like when you were little and you want to know what love is, how do you describe love? How do you describe being, is, or amming?
Amming.
My children used to say, I amming.
I amming. I be who be. But yet, that is it. This is the pathway again, starting in the physical, starting in the temporal, moving into the heart, allowing the heart to break, to expand, to heal, to grow, to change, to become vaster, to realize your vastness. And then everyone's on a different aspect of this path. We kind of talked it from, let's say, beginning to some portion of the path. But, we, in coming back here again and again in different aspects, you bring along your eternity bank. You bring along your that which is of you, which is already vast. So we have the term an old soul, a young soul. These are just ways of perceiving, again, at the heart level, because when somebody's been through something. Even if you don't know what it is, you feel in their essence that this being has already been expanded and has been made vaster and has paid that price. And,
Well, just that someone is not afraid of your story.
There you go.
Because most of the time people don't tell their real story because they're afraid that people will reject them. And the foundation of that is a level of pain.
Excuse me. Oh, go ahead.
When a person, a soul, has gone through extreme pain and come out the other side, it marks you. So that whenever another person is going through pain, and there's a certain look in the eyes, I don't know how to explain it, that, like, I can't say this because, this is not what people want to hear, but they suddenly find someone whose heart is expansive. In other words, this being has made space for the other person, for whatever it is this person is going through, for their pain. And they're not running away from it. That is an amazing gift that you can bring to any person. A space for them to be able to voice what is inside of them. Because once it's voiced, they can let it go.
Exactly. Yeah.
And once they let it go, they're not stuck there anymore.
Exactly right. And I just wanted to put a fine point on it. You said people don't want to hear it, but in essence, it's not always the rejection. It's also you are letting something go into a space that's receiving, or if you're trying to let something go and it's not receiving, you feel that immediately too. You know that they're not ready for that burden, that this person isn't at the level where you can share, and so you pull back. You say, well, I can't give this to them because they're not ready for that. You can feel that at the heart level too. And when you meet someone who you begin, it's a subtle thing. You don't know why, but at a heart level that you can tell this person this thing, and that this person may not have gone through it, but they will accept it. They will understand it. They will allow it, and give you something back. They'll say, that was pretty tough, and I understand. And they don't have to even tell you why they understand. That doesn't matter. It is a Margaret, the only thing I would say is it's the further along the path you go, the fewer people you meet who you can relate with, because it becomes like a pinnacle, like a tower. As you go up and up and up, it becomes smaller and smaller and smaller, the set of people who have been there before. And so it's harder. And when you do find someone who you can share at that level, it's a very precious thing. Very, very deep relationship starts there.
Reminds me of that passage in the Bible where Christ had said the road to tradition was broad.
Broad, yes.
But the road to life, the pathway to life is narrow, and few find the way. And this is what it's talking about.
Yes.
The ability to live your life in that clarity allows you to climb, but it is a road less traveled, so very much so that, as you said, you do find people on that pathway, but it is few and far between. But it is a sharing that is something that cannot be denied, because you share always in that eternal moment when you meet those people. You don't have to do any prefacing, or right there.
I think you said this once many years ago to me. So you find so many people you can teach, but so few you can learn from, and that's, it's not arrogance. It's just it is what it is. If you've been through things which are difficult, you have to find, yet again, someone who's been through something as difficult or more difficult in order to share. And that's, we're all at that level. Everyone is at that level. There's always those who you can teach and those with whom you have to be taught. Anyway, on this 4th anniversary episode, we have run out of time yet again. So we're on our way to our 5th anniversary. And I'm Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret. And thank you for listening.